Let's be honest, debt isn't always bad. But bad debt behavior? That's what keeps people trapped for years. It's not just the numbers on your credit card statement, it's the habits, emotions, and beliefs that drive those numbers. Today, we're going to unpack what bad debt actually is, how it starts, and most importantly, how to break free from it. Not just how to pay off debt, but how to change the habits and mindset that got us there in the first place. Because unless we fix those, we may just fall back into the same traps. So first things first, what exactly is bad debt? Debt, in general, is simply borrowed money you promise to repay later, usually with interest. Not all debt is harmful. Some types, like a mortgage or a student loan, can be considered good debt if they build long-term value or increase your earning potential. Bad debt, on the other hand, does the opposite. It drains your future without giving you lasting benefit. It's the kind that funds consumption instead of growth. Things like credit card, spending on clothes, gadgets, or trips you can't really afford, payday loans, or buy now, pay later, splurges. Bad debt doesn't just cost money, it steals peace of mind. It's the kind of debt that grows while you sleep. Cut to a simple on-screen list. Good debt: mortgage, education, business loan. Bad debt: credit cards, payday loans, unplanned consumer purchases. Now, here's the tricky part. Bad debt doesn't always look bad at first. When you swipe a card, it feels easy. The product is in your hands instantly, but the pain of payment is delayed. Psychologists call this the buy now, pay later trap. It tricks your brain into thinking you're richer than you are until the bill comes, and the system encourages it. Credit cards, ads, influencers, they all normalize spending money you don't have. In fact, companies want you to owe them because interest is how they make money. So bad debt isn't just a personal problem, it's part of a culture built on instant gratification. Bad debt isn't born overnight. It's the product of habits, emotions, and beliefs that form quietly over years. To truly fix bad debt behavior, we have to understand where it comes from. Because the real problem isn't the numbers on a spreadsheet, it's what's happening beneath them. For most people, debt begins with something innocent, a small purchase, a temporary emergency, a sense of, I'll pay it back soon. But over time, spending becomes emotional. It turns into a coping mechanism, a quick way to escape stress, boredom, or disappointment. That's the first route, emotional spending. When life feels overwhelming, shopping offers control. Swiping a card gives a momentary rush, a sense of reward when everything else feels uncertain. Psychologists call it a dopamine hit. That brief pleasure reinforces the behavior, even though it leads to regret later. It's not about the object you bought, it's about the feeling you were chasing. The second route lies in learned behavior. Most of us grew up watching how our families handled money. Maybe debt was normal, borrowing for everything, juggling bills, living paycheck to paycheck. Or maybe money was never discussed at all, so we grew up without clear guidance. Those early patterns become the foundation of how we treat money as adults. If you learned that credit cards are just part of life, it feels natural to use them even when you can't afford to. If you grew up in scarcity, you might spend impulsively as an act of rebellion, a way of saying, I finally can. The third route is cognitive bias, the way our brains trick us into poor financial choices. We overestimate future income, underestimate risks, and believe we'll have more money next month. This is called optimism bias. There's also present bias, the tendency to value today's pleasure more than tomorrow's security. That's why saving feels boring and spending feels exciting. And then there's mental accounting, separating money into imaginary boxes. We might tell ourselves, it's okay to use this card, it's my travel card, even if we're already in debt. All these biases combine to make bad debt behavior feel reasonable in the moment. Another deep root is shame and avoidance. Once debt starts building, people often stop looking at it. They avoid checking balances or answering calls. It's not laziness, it's psychological self-protection. The brain treats debt stress like danger, so it shuts down to escape the anxiety. But avoidance only feeds the cycle. Interest grows, late fees add up, and soon the weight of the debt feels too heavy to even face. Shame whispers, you're bad with money. But that's not true. The problem isn't who you are, it's what you've learned and how you've coped. The fifth root is social pressure. In a world where image equals worth, people spend to belong. We compare our lives to what we see online, vacations, cars, apartments, lifestyles, and we feel behind. That pressure fuels overspending even among people who know better. We start buying to project stability, to appear successful, or to avoid judgment. Debt becomes a mask we wear to keep up with others who are just as trapped as we are. The sixth root is financial illiteracy. Many people were never taught the basics: interest rates, compound growth, or how to manage credit. Without knowledge, decisions are emotional rather than logical. Predatory lenders and aggressive marketing take advantage of that gap. They make bad credit seem normal, even easy. But what looks like opportunity often becomes a trap. And finally, there's instant gratification, the silent engine behind almost all bad debt behavior. Our brains are wired to seek comfort now and delay discomfort later. Paying off debt brings no instant reward, but spending does. That's why so many people plan to start saving after this month. The cycle repeats until it becomes automatic. So, to sum it up, bad debt behavior grows from 7 roots: emotional spending, learned patterns, cognitive bias, shame and avoidance, social pressure, lack of financial education, and the lure of instant gratification. They intertwine, making it hard to tell where one ends and another begins. But recognizing these roots is powerful. Awareness breaks denial. Once you see the patterns, you can challenge them. You can start asking questions like, why did I buy this? What emotion was I trying to fix? Whose standards am I trying to live up to? These questions shift debt from something that controls you to something you understand. The goal isn't to feel guilty, it's to get curious. Every bad habit has a reason behind it. When you uncover that reason, you can replace the behavior with something healthier. Maybe your trigger is loneliness, so instead of spending, you connect with people. Maybe it's stress, so you take a walk, write, or breathe before reacting. Maybe it's the belief that money defines success, so you remind yourself that peace is worth more than possessions. Bad debt isn't a character flaw, it's a signal, a sign that something in your relationship with money needs healing. And healing starts with understanding. And when you stop seeing debt as a monster and start seeing it as a teacher, everything changes. You begin to notice your triggers. You pause before you buy. You plan instead of react. And slowly, those small pauses become power. Because breaking bad debt behavior isn't about punishment. It's about awareness, reflection, and consistent change. The numbers matter, yes, but mindset matters more. So before we jump into payoff plans and budgeting tools, take a moment. Think about what debt means to you, emotionally, mentally, personally. What stories do you tell yourself about money? Until you rewrite those stories, no strategy will stick. But once you do, every dollar starts working for you instead of against you. Practical tools and systems. Understanding why debt happens and changing your mindset is powerful, but it's not enough on its own. Real change needs structure. Systems are what keep you consistent when motivation fades. They give your good habits a framework and make progress automatic. If mindset is the engine, systems are the road that carries you forward. The first and most important system is awareness of your cash flow. You have to know exactly where your money goes. Write down every source of income and every expense, fixed bills, subscriptions, groceries, everything. Most people underestimate how much they spend, especially on small things that add up quietly. When you track every dollar, you start seeing patterns. You'll notice which costs are necessary, which are emotional, and which are simply wasteful. This isn't about guilt, it's about information. You can't manage what you don't measure. Once you've tracked your money, build a spending plan. Not a punishment, a plan. A budget isn't about restriction, it's about direction. Think of it as giving each dollar a purpose before emotion gives it one for you. Divide your spending into 3 broad categories: essentials, debt payments, and lifestyle. Essentials are the things that keep you stable: rent, food, transportation, utilities. Debt payments are your commitments to progress. Lifestyle covers everything else: eating out, shopping, hobbies, entertainment. The goal is to design a budget that fits your reality, not someone else's. The best plan is one you'll actually stick with. Automation comes next. Automation protects you from forgetfulness and emotion. Set up automatic payments for your bills and minimum debt repayments. Schedule them right after payday so you handle your responsibilities before temptations hit. Automating doesn't just save time, it builds reliability. You stop relying on willpower to do what a system can handle for you. The less you have to think about payments, the fewer chances you'll have to fall behind. Now, let's talk about debt payoff strategies. There are 2 popular methods: the snowball and the avalanche. The snowball method focuses on paying off your smallest debt first while maintaining minimum payments on the rest. Once that smallest balance is gone, you roll that payment into the next one. It gives quick emotional wins, which build motivation. The avalanche method, on the other hand, targets the debt with the highest interest rate first. It saves more money long term, but takes longer to feel progress. There's no single right way. Choose the one that matches your personality. If you need momentum and motivation, start small. If you prefer efficiency and patience, go after the high interest debts first. To keep yourself motivated, visualize your progress. Create a simple chart or progress bar that you can fill in as you pay off debt. It sounds simple, but visual feedback is powerful. Seeing your balance shrink or your progress line grow gives your brain a clear sense of achievement. Every small milestone reminds you that what you're doing is working. Next, build an emergency fund. This step is critical. Many people fall into or back into debt because they have no safety net for surprises: car repairs, medical bills, or sudden expenses. Even saving a small amount, like 1 month's worth of expenses, gives you breathing room. Over time, aim for 3 to 6 months. The goal isn't to reach perfection overnight, but to create space between you and panic. When emergencies happen, you'll have cash, not credit, to lean on. Another system that works well is separating your money into different accounts. Have one for bills, one for everyday spending, and one for savings or debt repayment. Keeping everything in one account makes it easy to blur lines and overspend. When your money is organized, your decisions become clearer. You know exactly what's available and what's off limits. Some people even label their accounts: rent, groceries, debt freedom, to keep their goals visible every time they check their balance. To support these habits, schedule a weekly money check-in. Spend 10 minutes each week reviewing what came in, what went out, and what's next. You don't need to analyze every cent. Just make sure you're not still on track. Think of it like brushing your teeth for your finances. It prevents problems before they build up. Over time, it'll become a routine you barely have to think about, but it will keep your awareness sharp and your confidence high. If you share finances with someone, a partner, a family member, a roommate, communicate openly. Talk about goals, boundaries, and expectations. Avoid blame and focus on teamwork. Financial silence creates stress. Financial honesty builds trust. If you manage money alone, consider finding accountability elsewhere. A friend, a coach, or even an online community of people on the same journey. Knowing you're not alone makes it easier to stay consistent. If your debt feels unmanageable, don't hesitate to ask for professional help. A certified credit counselor or financial advisor can help you organize, negotiate better terms, or consolidate loans responsibly. Be careful, though. Avoid companies that promise to erase debt or charge heavy upfront fees. Real help focuses on education and structure, not shortcuts. Now, let's address temptation. Willpower alone isn't enough to change behavior. Shape your environment to make spending harder. Unsubscribe from marketing emails, delete shopping apps, and remove saved credit card details from online stores. The fewer triggers you face, the less mental energy you'll waste fighting them. If shopping has become a coping mechanism, find replacements that soothe you without costing money. Journaling, walking, or listening to something uplifting. Over time, your brain will learn new ways to handle stress. It's also important to reward yourself, but wisely. Getting out of debt doesn't mean you have to live miserably. In fact, celebrating progress keeps you motivated. Just choose rewards that align with your goals, things that bring joy without undoing your progress. A nice meal, a short break, or even a quiet day of rest can be meaningful rewards that remind you why you're doing this. As your systems start working, remember that simplicity always wins. Complex financial plans collapse under stress. Simple routines survive. Make your setup easy enough to manage even on your worst day. Automation, separation, and regular review. That's all it takes. Consistency is what transforms behavior into identity. Finally, build reflection into your process. At the end of each month, take time to look back. Ask yourself what worked, what didn't, and what needs adjusting. Reflection turns mistakes into lessons and progress into motivation. This step keeps your growth continuous instead of temporary. Financial stability isn't achieved once. It's maintained by paying attention. Over time, these tools will turn discipline into habit. You'll notice that staying on track no longer feels forced. It becomes who you are. Your financial systems begin to protect your peace. They create room for choice, control, and eventually freedom. Because the goal isn't just to pay off debt. It's to build a life where debt no longer controls you. Mindset and cognitive shifts. Changing your financial life begins in your mind long before it shows up in your bank account. Debt isn't just a math problem, it's an emotional and psychological one. The same habits that create debt often come from beliefs we don't even notice. Beliefs about money, success, and self-worth. To truly overcome bad debt behavior, you have to change the way you think. Your thoughts become choices, and your choices become your financial reality. The first shift starts with identity. Many people tell themselves, "I'm terrible with money." The more you say that, the truer it feels. It becomes part of how you see yourself, and your behavior starts matching that belief. But no one is born bad with money. These are learned habits, and anything learned can be unlearned. Instead of labeling yourself as the problem, start seeing yourself as the student, someone who's learning to manage money better every day. Saying, "I'm getting better with money" sounds small, but it's powerful. When your identity changes, your actions follow. The next shift is from shame to understanding. Shame is heavy. It keeps you frozen. It tells you that you are your mistakes. Understanding, on the other hand, says, "I made choices that hurt me, but I can make better ones." Debt carries emotion, guilt, regret, even fear, but shame blocks growth. Self-compassion doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means giving yourself permission to fix what went wrong without self-destruction. You can't heal from what you keep punishing yourself for. When you replace judgment with honesty, change becomes possible. Another key shift is learning to challenge your inner voice. We all have one. It's the whisper that says, "I deserve this," or "I'll pay it off later." These small, quiet thoughts drive most impulsive spending. The next time you feel that urge, pause for a few seconds. Ask yourself, is that really true? What would happen if I waited? That moment of awareness breaks the automatic loop. You can't stop every thought, but you can interrupt the ones that lead you into trouble. Over time, that pause becomes a natural habit, one that saves both peace and money. Then comes the shift from avoidance to awareness. Avoidance feels safe in the short term, but it's dangerous in the long run. Ignoring your balance, skipping statements, or pretending it's not that bad only gives the problem more time to grow. Awareness feels uncomfortable at first, but it's the doorway to control. Start by facing your numbers. Every debt, every bill, every due date. When you face reality, you take back power. Fear loses its grip once you shine light on what it's hiding. Another mental shift involves trading instant pleasure for lasting peace. Debt thrives on short-term satisfaction, the excitement of buying something new, the relief of retail therapy, the illusion of comfort. But peace lasts longer than pleasure ever could. The next time you're tempted to spend impulsively, ask yourself which feeling will last longer, owning this thing or knowing you're one step closer to financial freedom. The answer will always guide you toward the life you actually want. A powerful shift also comes from moving away from scarcity thinking. Scarcity says, there's never enough, and that belief creates panic. You end up chasing or spending because you fear losing. Growth thinking says, I can create enough, I can change this. When you start believing that you can build, earn, and improve, you stop reacting from fear and start acting from purpose. Scarcity keeps you trapped in survival mode. Growth moves you towards stability and abundance. Next, trade perfection for progress. Too many people quit when they slip up. They overspend one weekend and think they've failed completely. But progress isn't about flawless performance. It's about consistency. You don't need to do everything right. You just need to do something better than yesterday. Every small correction counts. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds results. A small, steady step beats a perfect start that never lasts. It's also essential to connect your money goals to your personal values. Paying off debt just for the sake of numbers gets boring fast. But when you link your financial goals to something that truly matters, peace of mind, travel, family security, freedom, you give your actions meaning. Your why becomes your anchor. When temptation appears, remembering what you're working toward keeps you grounded. Discipline feels lighter when it's tied to purpose. Another shift worth practicing is gratitude. Debt feeds on dissatisfaction, that constant sense that you need more to feel okay. Gratitude cuts through that illusion. When you take time to appreciate what's already working, your health, your job, your progress, you quiet the voice that says, I need this now. Gratitude doesn't mean you stop striving, it means you stop comparing. When you stop chasing what others have, you start taking care of what's yours. Finally, the deepest mindset shift is learning to see debt as a teacher, not a life sentence. Debt exposes habits and beliefs that need attention. It reveals where we've avoided responsibility and where we've relied on quick comfort instead of patience. But it can also teach strength, humility, and self-control. Each payment you make, each small victory proves that you're capable of growth. The goal isn't to hate your debt, it's to learn from it, then outgrow it. Once you start thinking differently, your actions naturally follow. You'll pause before spending. You'll plan before reacting. You'll find confidence replacing guilt. Mindset isn't abstract. It's the foundation for every practical step that comes next. When you fix the way you think, you fix the way you handle money. It's that simple and that powerful. Books, lessons, and motivation. If you've made it this far, you already have what most people never find. Awareness. You've faced the truth, understood your patterns, and started building systems that work. But the journey doesn't end here. The next step is feeding your mind with better information. The more you learn, the stronger your decisions become. So let's close with a few powerful books that can guide you even further. Books that don't just teach money, but teach behavior. The first one is The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. This is one of the most practical guides on destroying debt. Ramsey lays out a clear, step-by-step plan for getting back in control. From building a $1,000 starter emergency fund to using a debt snowball to wipe out everything you owe. His method is direct and strict, but it works. Thousands of people have followed his plan and gone from tens of thousands in debt to complete financial freedom. If you follow his baby steps, you'll see how $100 in savings today can grow into $10,000 in financial peace tomorrow. Next is Your Money or Your Life by Vicki and Joe Dominguez. This book doesn't just teach budgeting, it teaches awareness. It helps you track every dollar you spend and asks one question. Is this expense worth the life energy it cost me? Well, it's a deep mindset shift. Most people earn money, spend it, and wonder where it went. This book shows how to align your spending with your values so your money actually reflects the life you want. If you follow its method for just 3 months, you can easily identify $300 or $500 of unnecessary spending every month. Money you can redirect toward your future. Another must-read is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's short but powerful. Housel explains why behavior matters more than knowledge, why a teacher can retire wealthy while a doctor ends up broke. It shows that how you act around money is more important than how much you know about it. The stories inside teach humility, patience, and emotional control. Exactly what most people lack when they fall into debt. This is the book that makes you see money as emotional, not mathematical. A single idea from it can change how you handle every paycheck that enters your life. Then there's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's not about getting rich overnight, it's about thinking differently. Kiyosaki contrasts two worldviews, one that sees work and debt as normal, and another that sees money as a tool for freedom. It's a wake-up call for anyone who's been taught to chase income instead of assets. It shows why spending $500 a month on liabilities keeps you poor, but investing that same amount could grow into $250,000 over 20 years. It's one of those books that changes your mindset forever once you finish it. And finally, The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This is the calm, confident voice that says, you don't need to be a financial expert to build freedom. Collins explains investing and saving in plain English. He focuses on what truly matters, spending less than you earn, staying out of bad debt, and letting time and compound interest do the work. If you save just $300 a month in a simple index fund, you could have over $350,000 in 25 years without needing to chase risky returns. This book is perfect for anyone ready to move from survival mode to independence. These books all share one truth. Knowledge compounds faster than interest. Every hour you spend learning saves you hundreds of dollars in mistakes. You don't need to read them all at once. Pick one, apply what you learn, and let it build momentum. So here's your challenge. Over the next 30 days, pick one of these books. Start tracking every dollar that comes in and out. Build your first emergency fund, even if it's just $100. Automate one bill. And write down your reason for becoming debt-free. Because this isn't just about numbers. It's about reclaiming peace. Imagine what an extra $500 a month could do for your life. Fewer worries, more choices, and the ability to sleep without thinking about bills. That's what financial freedom really feels like. Not luxury, but security. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Debt freedom doesn't come from a single decision. It comes from 1,000 small ones done right. Every payment you make, every impulse you resist, every time you choose your future over your feelings, you're getting closer. And one day soon, you'll wake up and realize the weight is gone. You'll check your balance and see zero, not just in debt, but in stress. That moment will be worth every step you took to get there. Remember, the goal isn't to have more stuff, it's to have more life. Stay consistent, stay patient, and never forget, the best investment you'll ever make is in your own discipline. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share.